When it comes to teaching the Lotus Sutra, all of us should, generally speaking, place great importance on it. The spirit of upholding the lineage and attending the lectures has been quite good overall. Of course, there are also some people who may have started out of curiosity, but later on some of them may have regressed or lost interest. I think that for this Lotus Sutra, if each daily live stream class can be completed successfully, then whether monastics or lay people, everyone receives a Dharma listening certificate. Because after a day has truly and completely passed, you see, you can get blessings. It's hard to say whether you truly receive the authentic lineage or not. So if you want to receive the lineage, many people use recordings and videos, but in the long run, this is actually not ideal in reality. The lineage should be received in person directly. If it's afterward, it's best if it's someone who listened in the presence of the teacher at that time, receiving it personally. Today, some people told me when he heard the Guhyagarbha Tantra teachings before, he seemed to have missed several classes. I really just want to use my tape now or use online videos to receive this lineage. But as for receiving the lineage through later videos, some people say it's possible, some say it's not. So it's hard to say. It's best, for example, when I previously taught the Guhyagarbha Tantra, just like in our Tibetan region, which Dharma teachers should be people with virtue. Otherwise, even if you were present at the time, if your conduct was very poor, you not got teachings fully. So you should receive the teachings directly in front of a person. This is really very important. In the future, in Han regions, including the Lotus Sutra and the transmission of many other sutras, it's best to receive them in person. Or in the future, to receive them in the presence of someone who holds the lineage. So this time, I also hope that all of you present here should, during the process of the teaching, especially when I am reciting the lineage, listen very attentively. If when I am reciting the lineage in Tibetan, some words are not heard clearly, for those on site it won't be a problem. But online, sometimes it's hard to say. There can be issues like a poor internet connection or bad signal. If the Tibetan part isn't very clear at all, then when I recite the Chinese part, everyone should listen carefully. I think there shouldn't be any difference. If the Chinese part isn't clear, then you need to pay attention to the earlier Tibetan part. Overall, I also hope that all of you who are listening this time will receive the complete transmission. Of course, because of the impermanence of death, for some people it may not be possible. I also think if life were not impermanent, I would very much like, if possible, to finish giving the complete teaching of this book, this scripture. It's the same for all of you. As long as there aren't any other special obstacles, do your best to receive the complete transmission. Sometimes our own lives are also impermanent. Some time ago, my mother really wanted to hear the complete teaching, but just as everything was really about to begin, she had already left this world. So sometimes, impermanence can come at any moment. There's nothing we can do about it. She didn't get it. But maybe, for one thing, she wanted to hear the Tibetan transmission. And secondly, after so many years, she wanted to hear my voice giving the transmission, including reciting the prayer of Samantabhadra. She was very deeply attached to this. In her heart, at that time, I didn't interrupt the classes either. I think this is particularly important to mention as well. Throughout this entire period of time, as you all know, I haven't actually taken any sort of breaks either to be honest. The other day I mentioned this to Khenpo Lodro. Khenpo Lodro said that when his own mother passed away in the past, he also didn't even stop teaching his classes at all because of a absolutely not. When he received the notification, he hired a car from Larunga and then went back to his hometown to collect the body. He said that back then, our institute just didn't have a road in Luoruo. He and his younger brother, at around 11 or 12 at night, they took turns carrying the body up. The next day, he still taught class as usual. He was teaching the treasury of valid cognition. When his mother passed away, it just so happened that I was at our institute. Not every month, a steward oversaw scripture recitation. At that time, it was actually my very first turn ever in my life to be the steward. I think it was before I had gone to Mount Wutai. It was around 1986, during the Kala Chakra initiation approximately. It was spring. At that particular time, I asked all of the monks who were present to participate in the Phawa recitation because as steward, I could instruct the monks. One of our respected Khenpos, Gendon Loro, joked with me. At that time, Khenpo Sultrim Lodro was called Khenpo Gupi. And then said, "Aren't you being a bit biased as the steward?" He said, "You insisted all the monks must participate, and you repeated it 2 or 3 times. But when others were doing the Phawa recitation, you didn't emphasize it this much. Aren't you being a bit partial? Did you give special emphasis because it was for Khenpo Gupi's mother? Is that right?" We were actually talking about this, that day. Actually, I also hope that in the future, when some of our parents or family members pass away, mightn't be possible. If there's no one to help, the situation might be special. We should do our best for the deceased and others so as not to break the lineage. For him, we should also try our best not to interrupt the lineage of listening to teachings and try not to interrupt lineage giving teachings. This way it might be better. It's just that, as for my mother this time, something said online, like these are completely rumors and do not match the facts at all in the slightest. More realistic, some time ago when I came to visit, at that time, our little nephew secretly recorded a video. Later, when I saw it, actually we also had a conversation at that time. For me, that conversation should be my last in life. The final meaningful conversation with my mother. But it seemed that she had already said everything she needed to say. For example, she is noticeably heavier, but she wasn't really actually ill. She was very tired and would often fall asleep while talking. But no matter what, all of her children had already come by that time. When our mother got sick, we siblings took turns caring for her day and night. For more than a month, day and night, we were constantly by her side, supporting her. She seemed to feel this made her very happy. Then she said if she were to die, she had no fear and was certain she would be reborn in a good place. Also, notably, during her time at the Institute, she listened to teachings and gained merit by joining Dharma assemblies. On top of that, she had been at the Institute for nearly 30 years. She never truly hurt or disturbed anyone's mind, not even once. This is something I observed about her. After coming here, whether it was the monastics at our Institute or before among the lay practitioners, she was easygoing. So I also hope that after many of us come to the Institute, we too will not disturb others' minds. In some respects, when elderly people are near, may not be good. This applies to the elderly young people. When leaving this world, if there is nothing much to regret, there should be a sense of accomplishment. Or if confident in their practice, that is also indeed a very good thing. Moreover, for many of them in particular, many elderly people in our Tibetan region are quite good in this. It always seems like praying to Guru, Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, and there is always a very sincere faith present. I also really hope that many of us, if at the Institute, or not at the Institute, but living in various cities, everyone should place importance on their practice. I have never mentioned before what my mother was like. To me, she was illiterate. She couldn't read. Since I was young, she raised me, and she must have made a lot of sacrifices and efforts, including the prayer of Samantabhadra and Sukhavati aspirations. Many of these were taught to me as a child, but she doesn't know, so what she taught wasn't always very accurate. When I recited them, I was used to it from a young age. Since she couldn't read, it seemed like she didn't even know how she learned it herself. After she taught me, parts were inaccurate. When I saw the text, it worked out. So regarding my mother, on one hand, to be honest, I don't really feel any sadness. But sometimes, after all, the special bond between a mother and her child, this mutual remembrance does bring about some attachment. When attached, I recite their great perfection aspiration prayer and settle my mind in that state. Doing this makes things a bit better, including when I went to the charnel ground the day before yesterday and saw those vultures coming out with their fangs bared. It felt a bit cruel in a way, as if I couldn't accept it. So I tried all sorts of different ways to cope. Really, anyway, what I want to say today is this. First, we really hope that everyone, please, makes a conscious effort to refrain in any way from disturbing others' minds as much as possible, no matter what environment we're in. This is actually very important for everyone. For those of us who are educated, we should study, reflect, and practice with culture. For uneducated people, they can recite the Avalokiteshvara mantra. My mother has recited countless times. When I asked her the other day, she still didn't give me a direct answer. Others said maybe it's over 100 million times, 100 million times recited. She has the tendency of always moving her lips whenever she stops, whether she's talking or doing anything else. When paused, I would recite Om Mani Padme Hum. She keeps reciting it non-stop. It has already become a habit. Actually, when it comes to spiritual practice, I don't want to talk about her merits or praise her. Generally speaking, parents admire their children and children admire their parents. Not a good thing. But if something is a fact, the truth can be told, right? After all, there's nothing wrong with that. So today, what I want to say, just now a thought came to me that I want to share. In the future, for the sake of your loved ones and others, try your best not to break the lineage. That's one thing. Secondly, we really hope that ideally, when each person eventually passes away, there won't be this kind of, like with my mother, she didn't really have any pain or illness at the time. That's very good. I talked to her briefly, then went downstairs to check. Then when I came back up, her condition had gotten much worse. That night, Khenpo Sultrim Lodro also recited a fawa for her. She was lucid. And every time, today I joked with Khenpo saying, you might be quite powerful. Every time he chanted her and pa, she would shake violently. The response was very strong. Even though he was in Canada, the sound from Canada seemed to pierce right through her skull. There really shouldn't be any problem. Morning, Khenpo Tenzin Loro and Khenpo Thuni recited Fawa. When they finished the Fawa, it was exactly 8 o'clock. At that moment, she passed away peacefully. It seemed very without any pain or suffering. Even though she was 85 and her body seemed very weak, her mind was very clear. She said she'd felt very sleepy lately. I don't want Alzheimer's disease. She also already knew what dementia was. So what I really mean is that for many of us, I think about this life's impermanent. If we live to 70 or 80, that's considered quite old. Some people also leave when they are young. But no matter what, it's best not to have a lot of guilt, because holding on to guilt can make it harder to feel good about yourself. The state of mind we have when leaving this world is very important. Despite having many wrongdoings, If at that moment you feel, I'm already pure, I'm already fine, that kind of feeling is very helpful for passing on to the next life. You practiced well, but when you are close to death, if you feel you are a bad person, you've committed many sins, then you will suffer, feel anger and hatred. And in that case, this will also have a certain impact on you. So today, I just honestly and actually wanted to share this with everyone. Recently, some people have also, after my mother passed away, did I at that moment have any particular feelings or emotions about it? I heard some journalists even came from different places just to interview me. Actually, when someone dies, there isn't really much to interview about. But it's really fine as well. In any case, for many of us, the Tibetan tradition is actually quite good. They recite scriptures for 49 days, a lot of chanting. These practices are all certainly quite beneficial. In Han regions, we may not do it exactly the same way now, but it's also possible. Our liberation from life and death truly carries great blessing. This time, all Khenpos, Dharma, teachers, and Khenmos from our institute have been reciting it, and I am especially grateful for that. I didn't make any requests myself, but later, many people said that if I didn't give permission, it seemed it wouldn't be appropriate either. So I thought, just let things take their course. This time, I didn't deliberately cling to any particular way of doing things. I'm going along to chance. It seems that I've taken up quite a bit of your valuable time today, but I suppose that's perfectly all right after all. I wanted to mention this. Next, let's recite the lineage. Homage to fundamental teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The subtle dharma is hard to encounter for ages. Now I see and hear. May I grasp a true meaning. To liberate sentient beings, please generate supreme bodhicitta. Now I will recite in Tibetan. Sambarashe, Ramurashe, Choparashe, Jiparashe, Surashe, Dengi, Bertamba, Chimboji, Chuji, Namjang, Jim Dortation, the Jiba, Shang Chibsen, Hua Nam Lao Damba, Sanjitam Chichi, Yonsu Kuru, Shepa, Chuji, Chuji, Tantinit, Chuji, Tantinilla, Chirmo Chonche, name, tying Ibertambi, Oniji Shavi, Tangan, number Jude, Skumur, Simayor Virgin, John de Numbrajima Tagado, John de He, Meto Mandara, Mandara Chimboda, Manji Sherda. Manje Shirka Chimbo Namji Meto Chimbo Mumbrapti Jundan de Don Kurjabote de Lantoro, Tamsitan Dambasan Gigi number 2 Ubertir de Gunda Raptor Garvata, Dim Gunda Raptor, Gunda Raptor, Dagan, Chikunda Raptor, Chuso, Tizena Gerlon Madam, giving Madam. Hludang, Ladang, Hludang, Nojendang, Chizadang, Lamayandam, Kardang, Magam Chedang, Tochi Chimbodang, Magam, Mamayimba Namdang, Jetchendang, Topin Kurlo Girvadang, Long Jin Kurlo Girvadang, Kurtin Andine, Kopra Gervan, Kordam Jibate, Tamchip Jundan de la Stajan, Kurtin Womser the Girer, Mat the Girer, Shinder Gavargir. Shinda Gavargero, Di Tsena, Jundan de Gir, Mansam Jim Zorfani. Resurrection, des charges de Saint-Didijan, Chapchon de son, Saint-Didijan, Teta Tamsit, Narme Bisem Janara, Chimboyan, Churchipis, Timo Manchu, Wuzerti, Woodkunda, Cabernon, Saint-Didijan, Teta Conjoa, Chubotana, Semchin, Kan Yopa Tamsit, Mali Pernan, Saint-Didijan, Teta, Saint-Didijan, de Kanta, Jijan, Sojan, Sojiba, Teta Tamsit, non, Saint-Didijan, de Teta Tamsit. Chapat de Chu Gang Chat Pateto Tamjian Mali per Jokso, Santi Jian Tetana, Gelon Madam, Gavin Madam, Namjur, Namjur Chenda, Namjur Shuba Kantak, Mjiva Toba, Mjiva Matoba Teto Tamjian, no, Santi Jian Tetana, Shanchu Sanwa Chimbo Kantak, Nyambadang, Mubadang, Mubatna Zoba, Demi, Di, Tablam Kiba, Takashanchu, Shuba, Lab Shuba Teto Tamjian, no. Santi Jian Tetana, Santi Jondan de Kanta, Yonsam Yang Lende Batem Jian, no. Santi Jian Tena, Santi Jondan de Kanta, Yonsam Yang Lende Banamji, Ranchi Jim Chutan Chimbo, Shashi Bateto Tamjian, no. Tene, Shanchu Sanwa Chimbo, Shamben the Nyam the Sem de Division Shop. Division Devra Bete, Chumcher, Tambanda, under G, Jig, Chief Shernap Jonathan de G, T, Chumcher, Chimbo, under Town, the Tante Jonathan de Tangans and Tela, Number Jisham, Zamchi, Chumcher, Chimbo, Mumsermat, Shua Chimbo, some Gimiki under Tava Tagdan, Snow and Gerandito, Duck, Selange, Tund, Landumber, Nipa, Seo, Yam, the end of Yam, the Jahorajon, the Kiravan, Mungi Jera, Lal Hobber. Jibadan, give us a Jibadan, Santi Mambola, Nimgur Jibadan, John, the Giranda, Munchi, Shagaba, Jumbayan, Doberzoba, Santi Namjin, the Tower, Shung Alam Tonja, Munchi Chuchimbo, Baby, Takyam, Nyungwe, Dakin Jahorajon, the Kiralati, Tundan, Jogo, Nyamd, Simso, Gerlon, Madan, giving ma. Kurjubo de Dadan, Ladon, Lodon, Nojendan, Trizadan, Hamayandan, Namkadan, Mamjedon, Toshimo. Madame Mayan Bate Tamchijan, John the Digism Chimbo, no understavam tone, Womser Matation at your the Yam the John the Digism Chimbo, no understav Tambatajan, Salander Yam the Simsot, and if Janjusan was and what Chimbo Shambe Dirkajan, Tangi Yitzam Jitin Lankurjubo Namki, number Toba Semji Shin, and Jahorjon the Jeralander Kachit Meso, Jahor, John the Digis, Womser. Matter Jean Zamtrich no under Tautan de Sanji Giatr Tombo Teta number of Java, Chota Tana de Badan, Tejan Shabarhund de Jubadan, Tejan Yonson Dember no under Jekan, Kinkan, Tejan Jusen, Hua, Chimbo Shambe, Jahorjon, Jeralatus, Japan, Meso, Jahor, Chi Shirnander Tower, Mayum Gumbo goes the Chubanian, the Jatirmans Kingdoms open. Shinder now goes the raptor, no, had no gave yitzum, Zandan Shema, Dan, Hayirpu, Rabayuto, Guatan, Mandaratan, Manji Shakai, Metok in a church in raptor, Pavatina second raptum Zikirjan, Kurjata, the Gavara, raptor to Janam der Tamchet. Tamchidar Namchiga, Shandan Jigby, Zukanerio, Gozerte, Shargi Shoglos, Janar Tom Chapchogit, Tsangar Nam, Kachikin, Tamchir Raptor, Jan of Sidi Kato, Jandamzi, Narmi Yanchuk Zemu, Jandana, Jante Tangana, Semchin Chirnipa, Joa Chukbotena, Yobarnam, Kantakteria. Shimpur Kiva Nama Tetalena number not so done, draw de draw of the dom of the draw of the dom of the Namjan now, Zombongamba Tivjin Varmayan, the na and Dikian Teta Tamchidam Tong, Santi Senka May Wombo Ye, Junior Raptor number Yevam Tong, Simchin Shiva Mala Raptun Bar, Nyambi, Jatan, Yang Sumbata, Zaptan Jetcher Matu Shunwija. Susu Janam Sayan Raptum Jen, Huedang, Tanzik Chaptu Shiva, Sanji Chundra Raptor Tombana, Semjan, Gunmer, Dungur, Zerata, Kedan Gai, Yirchu Maji La, Dono Gerlung, Dungur Tamaji, Dono Gerlung, Dungur Tamaji, Tela Raptum Yan Der Tomba, Merkan Kangar, Yachirim Totup Chang, Sanjim Tonga, Division Sonum Dan. Lana Chutran Dubjuto Jang, Ranger Tala, Ranger Taba Lion Tombamzada, Jayam de Rosabi Boka, Lana Mepe Yishim Sorvata, Shavas not to the Shibala, Tedotana, Shanchu Shirhung, Dana Division, Nanan Division, Tenan and Java, Cabra Tomchuk Shivata, Shundum Tonjan, Tutin Jamba Yang, Dedalena Shutam Mubara Sha, Dagum Tong Janam. Mambo Teta Nagan, Shanchip San Hua Kungo, Shima Nit, Gandam Shiva, Tomchuk Manu, Zonjir Namba, Mambu, Shansam Kid, Laliv Jimba Jimba, Division Day, Nordam, Drumberg, Serdam, Nurnam Dang, Mutig Nora, Manshir Shir, Dang, Jampo, Jamor, Tadan, Shanta Luk, Division, Renchen Taki, Gambi, Kyogo, Yonsa, Gavi, Yiki Jimba, Tong. Dakchaki Yang Tangchuk Toshuk Ji, Shanchim Chonder, Yonsu Hungoshe, Jimban Danda, Teta Jini, Jinshi Ni, Kansam Nayan, Tabam Cabrajan, Kansam Nayan, Tangchuk Cabrajan, Sanji Taba, Desha Hungakamba, Hungakba, Den of the Mirdo Toshik Ji, Lale Tavi, Jengi, Shantala, Lale Tavi, Jengi, Shantala, Kachir Chipi, Metor Gian, Son Gian, Renchen Tale, Shibi, Wadan Jan, Lale Teta.
Lali testawayi jimbana tevjin wadang chongmar namgyang jina lali pangwi xiayang jimbar shida xiangchib tamban dunun tsurshi shir lagdang lagbadang na kangwa plangla jina lala takum godang lali mga lali daka limchuk rabdang te tangwa semgi jimbar namjin ne dekshig tevjin xigji yishi tonda nir 10分钟您传承已经用了10分钟
The following text is a lecture in Chinese on the Lotus Sutra. In the first lesson on the Lotus Sutra, we mainly discussed the title of the Lotus Sutra and some stories of its translator, Kumarajiva. Then in the second lesson, we talked in particular about the 5 perfections, the perfection of the teacher, the perfection of the Dharma, and the perfection of the assembly, the perfection of time and the perfection of environment or location. We covered these 5 perfections. Once these 5 perfections are all present, we can then formally begin to discuss the origins of the sutra. In fact, the Lotus Sutra is an important scripture in Mahayana Buddhism and has had a significant impact on Buddhist philosophy and practice. Has been annotated and commented on by many noted past masters, especially within Han Buddhism as a religious tradition. A Dharma master teaching the Lotus Sutra said, that back in the Ming Dynasty, there was a master named Wujin Chuandeng. At that time, he said that the Tiantai school's Lotus Sutra should be traced from the Han Dynasty to the Tang Dynasty. During that period, there were over 4,000 volumes of commentaries and annotations on the Lotus Sutra, roughly by the Song Dynasty, or before the Song Dynasty. The Buddhist canon had over 5,000 volumes. In this case, it should be noted that 4/5 of them were dedicated completely to the Lotus Sutra. There is indeed such a saying, as people often say, in life. It is indeed true that for a certain period of time, especially from the Han Dynasty all the way to the Tang Dynasty, looking at historical records and introductions, it is said that the Lotus Sutra was widely circulated in Han regions. It's just that today it is not considered particularly flourishing. You could put it that way. In fact, it was not only transmitted by the Tiantai Buddhism, there should have been many others there as well. For example, Master Kuiji of the Yogacara school, he also wrote commentaries and lectures on the Lotus Sutra. And Master Jizang of the Sanlun school, he is also remembered for having written thoughtful and respected commentaries on the Buddhist scripture. In this way, from the entire history of the Han regions as we know it, or from the perspective of the propagation of the Dharma. In fact, it is not the case that the Tiantai school is the only one to transmit and spread the Dharma through this lineage. As some might believe, we won't fall this time because we have learned from our past. We are not favoring any particular school. Any school is fine. The Lotus Sutra was expounded by the Buddha himself, and it possesses great blessings and truly extraordinary merit. Such a remarkable scripture. So each of us should accept it with a joyful heart. Maybe it has something to do with my personal interests. But whatever sutra I talk about, I always value its merits very much. And I really like it. When I taught the Abhidharmakosha, I said that Abhidharmakosha is particularly important because at that time I truly felt in my heart it should be good to learn Abhidharmakosha. I will talk more about Abhidhammakosha in the future. And when I teach Madhyamaka, Pramana, or Vinaya, or any of these, including esoteric teachings, direct realization, and more, I also truly and highly praise each and every one of these treatises. This time, as we discuss the Lotus Sutra, no need to praise it, because in fact, the Buddha himself speaks of its merits below. After this, those who are wise can really understand what this is like. We can also see from history, so many great masters, so many scholars and practitioners have placed importance on scripture. But as time slowly and gradually passed, and history inevitably changed, by the time we reach today, we live in an era where people especially value money, status, and fame. In this modern era that surrounds us, those who read the Lotus Sutra and study it, and those who genuinely practice and spread its teachings are truly not very many. This time is a special circumstance, as you may have noticed. In this unique era, each of us is a special person. So I also hope that each of you will make a vow to spread the Lotus Sutra in this life or future lives. You, in front of the Buddhas of the three times, the three jewels, and your teachers can also, if they wish, certainly make this vow. When it's convenient, I will also ask you to raise your hand. Some of you may really not be able to find companions. If you can't find your family, then just look to the next life. There's really no other way. As long as there is an opportunity, I especially hope in the future, for example, after I leave this world, if the lineage is complete and pure, you can also teach in different places, in various locations. When I explain based on certain principles from the Tibetan texts, I hope you will also remember them well for a long time. After all, as you know, I am a teacher of Tibetan Buddhism, if main lineage is in Tibetan. When you spread the teachings, I once, quite some time ago, studied Tibetan Buddhism. If you don't want to mention my name, there was once a wizard, a mysterious figure, and there was also a man who had a story to tell, both living in a world, when you have received it, how is it said in the Tibetan language exactly? In this way, they can correspond to each other. When I listen to many great masters teaching in Chinese, some of the principles may not be explained very clearly, but in Tibetan they are clear right away. If something isn't clear in Tibetan, it might be explained very well in Chinese. So as we continue with the teachings, everyone pay attention. Otherwise, you may listen, but I don't know. Anyway, I have heard of it before, but now I don't really remember a thing. Basically, I've listened to it, but I have no idea how to explain it. Anyway, as long as you pray quietly and sincerely on your own, that's more than enough. That attitude's problematic. Now, at this point, let's proceed to begin the next part. All the assembly was already complete. The Lotus Sutra assembly scene was magnificent. At that moment, the world-honored one was surrounded all around him by the fourfold assembly. That is, bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas. These are called the Buddha's fourfold assembly of disciples. They made offerings, showed respect, praised and honored him. Then the Buddha compassionately expounded the Mahayana Sutra for the Bodhisattvas. It was called the Infinite Meaning Sutra. This is the teaching for Bodhisattvas, protected and remembered by all Buddhas. The Infinite Meanings Sutra had already been taught. In fact, according to the Tiantai school's perspective on the Lotus Sutra, it first names 6 auspicious signs, which are the 6 auspicious signs arising from oneself and the 6 arising from external conditions. The first auspicious sign, they say, is the auspicious sign of teaching the Dharma. The auspicious sign of teaching the Dharma means the Buddha expounded Mahayana Dharma for the Bodhisattvas then. His Mahayana Dharma teaching, the Infinite Meanings Sutra. There are 2 views on Infinite Meanings Sutra. One possible explanation is that there really is, in fact, such a sutra. It seems that the Chinese Tripitaka also contains it. Tripitaka Sutra, Infinite Meanings. There is the Samantabhadra Meditation Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. These 3 sutras are often referred to as the 3 Lotus Sutras. Some believe that this is a sutra that serves as the origin story or introduction to the Lotus Sutra. There is certainly such a view as well. Another explanation is that the so-called infinite meanings is merely another name for the Lotus Sutra. In Master Jije's well-known classic Wenju on the Lotus Sutra is recorded. It is specifically mentioned that Lotus Sutra has 17 other names. Among them, infinite meanings is, in fact, also one of its alternative names. It's just a different name. That's all. This is also how it's explained. According to the Tibetan version, it is important to understand that this is not necessarily considered a separate sutra. In some cases, in the Tibetan version, perhaps something is added at the beginning. I want to preach the Mahayana Sutra for the Bodhisattvas, for the benefit of all beings. I want to say desire. To benefit Bodhisattvas, to teach Mahayana Sutra called Infinite Meanings, teaching the compassionate Bodhisattva path, protected and remembered by the Buddhas. After the Buddha had spoken, this sutra does not appear in the Tibetan version, but that's also quite acceptable, because earlier, all the assembly had already gathered around. When all the assembly is gathered around, the Buddha, for the sake of these bodhisattvas, wished to expound the Mahayana teaching. The Mahayana teaching he wished to expound is in fact truly the infinite meaning. Actually, in the Tibetan version, infinite meanings is called the Great Discourse Sutra in Tibetan. The Great Discrimination Sutra means the Lotus Sutra. So, per the perspective of the Tibetan Tripitaka, it seems there is no need for a separate scripture. In fact, this approach or method is, as it has always been, the way all Buddhas teach the bodhisattvas. That is to say, the Lotus Sutra is the one protected and remembered by all Buddhas. This protection and mindfulness of the Buddha, many Chinese Buddhist masters shared their own interpretations. But all of this ultimately, in essence, comes down to one meaning. When the Buddha was together with the fourfold assembly of disciples, the Buddha intended and wished to teach the Mahayana Dharma. What kind of Mahayana Dharma? Infinite meaning, Sutra of Great Discrimination. What is Sutra of Great Discrimination? It is the teaching for all bodhisattvas, protected and remembered by all Buddhas. It is the doctrine and meaning of the Lotus Sutra. All Buddhas and bodhisattvas are always deeply mindful of this sutra. The Amitabha Sutra is called the Sutra protected and honored by all Buddhas. There is such a saying, therefore, the Lotus Sutra is in fact an extremely important scripture, protected and remembered by all Buddhas. If we study it very carefully, the Buddhas remember us, bless us, and keep us in mind. It possesses inconceivable merits. All of the above is called the auspicious sign of teaching the Dharma, the first one. Next, the auspicious sign of Samadhi, per the Tiantai school. What is this called exactly? The Buddha sat peacefully in the lotus position and then for a moment entered Samadhi. Which Samadhi did he enter? It is called the Samadhi of Infinite Meanings, or the Great Discriminative Meaning Samadhi, a meditative concentration. In this state, body and mind are completely unshakable. Before expounding this sutra, the Buddha first entered Samadhi. Sometimes when we lecture on the Dharma or engage in practice, the mind becomes completely still and all discriminative thoughts are cut off. This is also very important, as paying attention to this can... Before the Buddha expounded this sutra, he entered this Samadhi of infinite meanings, or the Great Discriminative Meaning Samadhi. This is called the auspicious sign of entering Samadhi. Third, there is the auspicious sign, a rain of flowers falling. When the Buddha entered Samadhi at that time, what kind of rain fell from the sky? Mandarava flowers and great Mandarava flowers, beautiful. Mandarava flowers, Mandarava refers to white lotuses. Mahamandarava in Sanskrit means large white lotuses, which are beautiful flowers. There are also Manjushaka and Mahamanjushaka flowers, which are small red lotuses and large red lotuses, respectively. This gentle rain of flowers softly and gracefully fell upon the Buddha, as well as upon the entire assembly present. What is this called in English, please? It is called the rain of flowers, the appearance of such auspicious sign. Some Chan masters say that it is not just a flower, it is a kind of blessing, a symbolic manifestation. It looks a rain of flowers. In reality, on a deeper level, all assembly and the Buddha are in another realm and state. There is also this interpretation. This is the third auspicious sign, the rain of flowers. The fourth is called the auspicious sign of the earth shaking. That is, the earth itself trembles. 6 kinds of vibrations, indeed, in the universal Buddha world. All the Buddha lands throughout the entire world undergo and experience 6 kinds of tremors. The 6 kinds of tremors in many Buddhist sutras. For example, there are various different types, such as shaking, rising, surging, quaking, roaring, and awakening. Other scriptures also describe it this way. But is this really an actual, genuine physical tremor, like an earthquake? Not necessarily, not always. when such auspicious signs appear, our six sense faculties. Master Jiza, as well as many other noted Buddhist great masters, have said six senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, all six faculties can indeed be thoroughly purified. Venerable Master Xuanhua explained using the six faculties. Master Jiza said that each auspicious sign of the earth shaking can be further divided into three types. In this way, the 18 realms, it shows purification of 18 realms. In fact, it means that our six faculties are purified, the 42 kinds of ignorance are destroyed and eradicated. There is an explanation. So we can also interpret the earth shaking in this specific way, for example. It can also be said, for example, that in the past, Padmasambhava and many virtuous teachers during their teachings, miraculous signs like flowers raining and earth shaking. There have been real earthquakes as an auspicious sign, but in most cases it refers to internal stirring. It is an inner sign that the six faculties have been purified. This is also one of the meanings. This is the fourth sign. The fourth is the auspicious sign of the earth shaking. The fifth is the significant sign of universal boundless joy. Bhikshus and bhiksunis, upasikas and upasakas, as well as devas, nagas, yakshas, gandharvas, and asuras, garudas and kinaras, maharagas, as well as both humans and non-humans. All of these distinct groups are included here, as well as minor kings and some wheel-turning monarchs, all experienced an unprecedented sense of joy. They were extremely happy, constantly gazing at the Buddha. Because at that particular time, generally speaking, as a matter of fact, whether it was a great monk or virtuous master giving teachings, or when the Buddha turned great wheel of Dharma, the entire assembly, all those present, each and every one, would give rise to an unprecedented sense of joy. In the past, whenever our precious Guru taught the Dharma, indeed all of us below would feel an extremely great joy. Including myself, every time I open any Dharma text now these days, His Holiness taught ornament of, we felt especially joyful. When His Holiness taught the White Lotus treatises, or when His Holiness taught root treatise on Vinaya, we were happy. It seemed that with every scripture, all of us below felt that, wow, this classic is perfect, that my life truly has meaning. There were feelings like that as well, deep and real. So at that particular time, just before the Buddha was preparing to give a teaching, such auspicious signs, both internally and externally, would appear. After these signs appeared, all the humans and non-humans who were gathered there, who were present at the scene, witnessing everything unfold, humans could be seen with the naked, but as for the non-humans, we can't see them. Yet there were also an extremely large number of them gathered together. Everyone was extremely joyful, all gazing at the Buddha, their faces illuminated, with eyes full of pure, radiant happiness and deep. What is this called exactly in English, perhaps? It should be called the auspicious sign of collective joy, the sign of the assembly's happiness. This is the fifth one. The sixth is called the auspicious sign of the Buddha emitting light. At this moment, a radiant light shone forth from the white tuft between the Buddha's eyebrows, illuminating all 18,000 worlds to the east, completely pervading everywhere, reaching all places in every direction. From the Avicii hell, the very lowest hell, all the way up to the peak of existence. Here in this context, the Akanista heaven, in fact actually Buddhist dictionary, etc. I saw it mentioned there as the ultimate realm of the form realm. Form realm's ultimate, the formless realm is above, so this should refer to the peak of existence. In Tibetan as well, it is called the peak of existence. All of these 18,000 worlds, each one a unique realm within the vast and boundless universe, are being referred to here. Every single world, from hell's below to highest realm, neither perception nor non-perception worlds between, are all completely illuminated and appear with perfect, unmistakable, flawless clarity. The above are commonly referred to as the 6 auspicious signs that appear on one's own side. These are used in Tiantai school. But this is not exactly an auspicious sign. It's a result of dependent. However, They often use such terminology. So if we follow the perspectives of the Tiantai school, that might be a good approach. For many of us, it is also a way to learn from the Tiantai tradition. The Lotus Sutra is also interpreted by other commentators, so I try my best, but there isn't enough time otherwise. If there were, I would also like to refer to them as much as possible. On the stairs, a monk asked me which Tiantai section I meant. I said, please wait a moment, maybe just a bit later. He asked, do you want to see it now? Master, would you perhaps like to see it now? I said, it's fine, maybe later or in a couple of days. I've been a bit busy these days. But I still want to take a look just for a moment. When it's convenient, please bring it over to me. I see many Tiantai sect. This time we should really take the time to study many of the various viewpoints of the Tiantai school. While studying the Lotus Sutra, I hope you will read other commentaries. For example, the commentaries by Master Jize, which are quite old and the language is not very easy to understand. Venerable Master Xuan Hua explained. His work is called A Simple Explanation of the Lotus Sutra. That directly explains in detail the classical text of Master Jize. If you read it carefully, you can basically understand many of Master Zizi's viewpoints and perspectives. The above are indeed called the 6 auspicious signs of oneself. Now, the following are called the 6 auspicious signs of other worlds. These auspicious and fortunate signs can often be seen in this world, clearly showing those particular places. Just now, the sentient beings of the 6 realms in that distant eastern world, this is one auspicious sign, seeing the sentient beings in the 6 realms there. Then the second one, seeing all the Buddhas in that Buddha field, and seeing Buddhas expounding the sutras. This is the second auspicious sign about expounding the Dharma. 6 realms, sentient. Then the Buddha preached there, and the other 4 groups of followers listened to the sutra. Scene of the Dharma expounded. Next, the third one, seeing the bhikshus and bhikshunis, upasikas and upasakas there, as well as the situations of other practitioners and those who have attained realization. The practitioners there, this is in fact the third one. The fourth one is seeing all the truly wonderful great bodhisattvas who, with various causes, conditions, kinds of faith and appearances, practice the bodhisattva path. This is without a doubt the fourth one, the fourth in this particular sequence. This can also be explained in this way. Bodhisattvas follow the path through many causes, conditions, understandings of faith and appearances. This is very important. Many teachers also actually use a variety of methods in their teaching. For example, when facing sentient beings with dull faculties or limited understanding, they may teach simpler dharma. Some teach more profound dharma. Some display this kind of behavior, while others display that kind of behavior. Some may use analogies to explain, and some inspire faith through various ways. In our lives, people also have different lifestyles. Some people really enjoy eating delicious sweet mooncakes, savoring each bite, and appreciating their. Some like to eat hot and sour noodles. Some like spicy tofu, and some like pickled vegetables and so on. Everyone has different preferences. When bodhisattvas spread the Dharma, they display various conduct. So when we find something hard to accept, we should try not to point out others' faults. If someone truly does have such faults, you can mention them if you want to. If you see someone showing the 8 worldly concerns, in such cases you can also speak up. But for each bodhisattvas, it says here, with varied causes and beliefs, they practice the bodhisattva path. We probably can't generalize everything. Just because a certain appearance doesn't suit me, doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Because of this kind of sincere faith, he believes in Mahayana, and he also believes in Hinayana. He believes in other religions. We should also try not to criticize or slander them. This is very important, certainly. This is the 4th point. Witnessing the various actions of bodhisattvas. This can also be seen here. Then, the 5th point is witnessing the Buddhas manifesting the state of nirvana in this pure land. The 6th is, after nirvana, the Buddha's relic stupas made of 7 precious substances. In this situation, they go to make offerings and respectfully pay homage. Then, the situation after nirvana's manifestation, these are the 6 auspicious signs. Of course, in some other commentaries, it seems the 3rd auspicious sign is not very clear.
But according to my understanding, in comparison, although there is no distinction in Tibetan, in fact, generally speaking, explaining it this way should be acceptable. Per the Tiantai school's perspective, the 6 auspicious signs of one's own realm and the 6 auspicious signs of other realms, the above can, for example, indeed be introduced in this way. Next, at this point, now, as we move forward together, as mentioned earlier, as we discussed, after the Buddha entered Samadhi, he emitted light illuminating all the worlds in the East. At this moment, Maitreya Bodhisattva thought this. Today, the world-honored one is displaying such inconceivable supernatural powers. Look, after he entered Samadhi like this, all the assembled followers were able to see many situations in the Eastern worlds. What is the cause and condition for this? To witness these auspicious signs today. After the Buddha entered such a samadhi, there appeared these inconceivably rare, auspicious signs. This situation should be inquired about. Why is the Buddha displaying such miraculous transformations? What is the meaning of this? Ultimately, why is he manifesting in this way? What exactly are these Eastern worlds like? A lot of different questions arose. Maitreya Bodhisattva thought, whom should I ask? Who can truly answer these questions? In Tiantai Buddhism, this is generally called the 3 thoughts, 3 kinds of thoughts. At that time, Maitreya Bodhisattva had 3 thoughts arise. The first thought that came to mind, why did the Buddha display such wonderful, miraculous transformations and auspicious signs today? Why is this? That was one thought. The second thought, what do these auspicious signs symbolize? Whom should I ask? This was the second thought. The third thought that comes to mind, who can truly and honestly answer me and really give me a satisfactory reply? That was the third thought. At that time, Maitreya Bodhisattva had these 3 questions arise. At this moment, he thought to himself, among all our assembly today, Manjushri Bodhisattva is truly remarkable. Prince Manjushri, he has sincerely and devotedly offered his service and paid the highest respect to countless Buddhas, honoring them with unwavering dedication and deep. He should have experience. He should be able to answer this rare and auspicious sign, I should ask him. That was what he was thinking at the time. First he wondered, who should I ask this question to? Then he remembered, oh, if I ask someone else, if I ask an ordinary person, he would know, nothing he could do. If I ask an ordinary bodhisattva, I think they probably wouldn't be able to answer either. Maybe it's better to ask Manjushri Bodhisattva. Why is that? Because in the past, Manjushri Bodhisattva, before countless Tathagatas, also served and made offering. So when we have questions, it's the same, just like before. Usually, we ask someone with at least a bit of experience. Otherwise, when you just became a monk, you don't even know much yet. If you ask him a question, he may not be able to answer it. If you want to answer, oh, this Lama, this Khenpo, this Dharma friend, I've heard they've already spent many years at the institute and have followed many teachers. If you ask them, they should have wisdom. When the time comes, they'll say, I don't know. Don't ask me about this. You can't ask questions. Let me make it clear. In today's environment, as it stands, you simply can't ask questions at all for any reason. If you ask questions, I'm really leaving. I've heard that when some people start teaching the Dharma, they're sometimes a bit afraid of others asking sharp questions. I can transmit the Dharma to you, but there's only one, and truly only one request, only one condition. You can't ask me questions, because today, never mind, I won't talk about this cause and condition today. There's a reason behind it. This story does not belong to me, but to another person entirely. I am here to share their experiences and recount what happened to them. So Maitreya Bodhisattva thought, with auspicious signs, who to ask? Maybe Manjushri Bodhisattva. He has experience. He must have, in the past, while making offerings and serving before many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, definitely seen other Buddhas emit light and many auspicious signs appear. Buddha's deeply inspiring teachings and some truly luminous words. Now, in our Lotus Sutra, the Buddha emits light from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows. And this becomes the cause and condition. Mahaprajna Parami. The Buddha's entire body, from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head, brilliantly, beautifully, and radiantly emanates light truly indeed, without measure. Later, when teaching the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, for example, in the Nirvana Sutra, the Buddha's face emits light, and this becomes the cause and condition. Avatamsaka Sutra. Some chapters describe light from the feet, others from the heart. I have also seen in many chapters of the Avatamsaka Sutra, each chapter has its unique causes and conditions. So the causes and conditions manifested through the Buddha emitting light
are also very special. So Maitreya Bodhisattva wondered what was the cause for emitting this light. He wanted to ask Manjushri Bodhisattva. At that very moment, it wasn't just Maitreya Bodhisattva alone who had this particular doubt in his mind and heart, but also among the other attendants present, bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, as well as the devas, nagas, ghosts, and spirits. They were all wondering too. Actually, we humans still have many questions. Especially those who are just beginning to study Buddhism, they all quite often ask questions. Usually when I'm out on the road, I don't really let people stop me. When people stop me on the road, there's a bunch of questions blocking the way. Please wait for just a moment. I would like to ask you something briefly. Walk, people shout from behind. Hey, Khenpo, could you wait just a moment, if you don't mind? I actually have a quick question for you. So sometimes, generally speaking, in most cases, it's fine to ask questions so long as there's an opportunity. But if you ask questions on the road, well, it's really troublesome. Everyone is simply just passing by on the busy road. How can you ask questions while walking? This still just won't work. Maybe even when Maitreya Bodhisattva asked Manjushri Bodhisattva, everyone was sitting together to ask questions. It wasn't like they saw each other on the road or from behind and started asking, "You're sitting, I want to ask you a question." "Excuse me, you're standing there, and I'd like to ask you a quick question, if that's all right with you." When people first start studying Buddhism, they have a lot of questions. But gradually, as time goes by, there's no problem at all. Now, in our institute, those who have stayed for more than 10 years, basically all of their questions have already been resolved. There are none left, which is actually pretty good, really. So maybe the devas, nagas, and yakshas are the same way. Newly arrived devas, nagas, yakshas, they really have a lot of questions. But the older ones, like our Shangrala Mutenma, who has accompanied us for years and represents traditional values, as for our city of Longchuan, there's a very powerful dragon here at Longchuan, a dragon of Dujong Rinpoche, and we have a Dharma. As for them in the past, like during the time of the first Dujong Rinpoche, the wish-fulfilling jewel Rinpoche, they have listened to Dharma with masters. They definitely don't want to ask any questions, not even one. They just remain silent. These beings, it seems, probably don't have any questions at all. So at that time, the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasikas and upasakas, they also started thinking to themselves, a sign like the Buddha emitting light is still very rare. They didn't really explain it fully. But in the Tibetan version, it's a bit more elaborate, actually. Who should they ask? If you look, devas, nagas, yakshas, bhikshus, bhikshunis, they know there's something to ask, but they don't know exactly whom to ask. Maitreya knows. Manjushri Bodhisattva can answer this. Devas, nagas, yakshas, bhikshus, bhikshunis. This is a question, but they honestly don't know who would be best to ask. It's very likely that the devas, nagas, and yakshas were all asking each other. But if they just ask each other, they might not be able to answer very well. At this point, Maitreya Bodhisattva, on one hand, is resolving his own doubts. He understands the mindset of the fourfold assembly of disciples. In the Tibetan version, while in the Chinese version it says he observes bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasikas, upasakas, as well as the minds of the devas, nagas, ghosts, spirits, and other members of the assembly. He carefully observes all their minds. In other words, he truly knows absolutely everything. He seeks answers to his own questions. On the other hand, he also sees among the many devas, nagas, ghosts, spirits, upasikas and upasakas, most have same question. After understanding everyone's minds, he decides to ask Manjushri Bodhisattva. So, Maitreya Bodhisattva begins to question Manjushri Bodhisattva. That's what he said. Due to what causes and conditions has such an auspicious sign appeared, emitting great light that illuminates 18,000 lands to the east, and unveiled and revealed the magnificent, beautiful, and awe-inspiring worlds of the Buddhas, each one filled with wonder and splendor. Maitreya Bodhisattva thoughtfully restates this important question in a broader and more comprehensive way, carefully considering its implications, expressing it in the form of verses. Maitreya Bodhisattva questions Manjushri Bodhisattva. Everyone should clearly understand how this part of the story unfolds. This is Maitreya Bodhisattva questioning Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the questions he asks are based on meanings mentioned above. But next, he goes even further with each question. Who does he actually represent? He represents the Bodhisattva assembly, and representing all the spirits and ghosts, all the devas, nagas, and 8 classes of beings, sentient beings asking questions. At this point in time, I am the person who has been chosen to represent them. And it is now my And next, Maitreya Bodhisattva, with deep reverence and utmost respect, asks in the form of verses. Let me also mention to everyone that some passages are in prose, but in the following sections of the Lotus Sutra, there are more verses. Sometimes the meaning of the prose and the verses is quite similar. So why is that? Well, the underlying explanation for this should actually be, in fact, as follows. As explained by Nagarjuna Bodhisattva in the 10 stages Vibhasa Shastra, there is this point. Simply put, the Vibhasa Shastra, as we call it, this contains, in fact, the reason for this. This is very important. When we sometimes read the scriptures, why is the prose section stated once? As in the Universal Gate and Samantabhadra's Practices and Vows chapters, the content is explained once in prose and then again in verse form. So why is it repeated like this over and over again? Fault in repetition? Why done this way? Many people may, in fact, really have such questions. Nagarjuna Bodhisattva in the Vibhasa Shastra gave 4 reasons for this. The first reason is called scattered prose and connected verses. What does this mean? Scattered prose is prose, or connected verse refers to verses. According to Indian tradition, when an author thoughtfully and carefully composes a detailed treatise, traditionally, it generally includes both prose and verse forms. The material or content is essentially, in fact, in most cases, often the same in both. Later on, this is also mentioned in Master Ji's commentary on the Lotus Sutra. As for some Chinese writings, there is usually a preface at the beginning and an epilogue at the end. There is a preface at the front and a postscript at the back. This is the tradition in China. In India, the usual style for composing treatises and scriptures, particularly those of great significance, the style includes prose and verse. This is a tradition, and it is something we should be aware of. That is simply the first reason. As for the second reason, specifically speaking in particular, it's also because beings have different inclinations. Well, some people simply prefer verses, while others like prose. That's exactly why we use verses right at the very beginning. Some people find verses very interesting at first glance and feel delighted. Others are very pleased with prose. Reason, sentient beings have different inclinations. The third reason is that the different understandings obtained, some truly understand the meaning by relying on prose. Some people only truly understand the deeper meaning through poetic verses. So because their convictions differ, the certainty they develop is also different. The fourth reason is the difference in sharpness and dullness of faculty. Sentient beings have sharp or dull mind. If someone has sharp faculties, then just explaining either a prose passage or a verse is enough. But if it's someone with dull faculties, it's better to first explain a prose passage and then a verse. By repeating in this way in the end, those with dull faculties can indeed understand better. So these are the 4 reasons. That's why in Buddhist scriptures, verses and prose passages often tend to repeat each other, to some extent echoing similar ideas. This is indeed the reason for that discussed Medicine Buddha Sutra. There are some, I suppose, as everyone knows. Next, we will present it in the form of verses for you to enjoy and reflect upon as follows, covering the content of Maitreya Bodhisattva, questioning Manjushri Bodhisattva. I won't recite it right now to save time. I'll just explain the general meaning to everyone. First, this is also related to the 6 auspicious signs. The text states as follows. Manjushri Bodhisattva, I would like to ask you, for what specific reason or purpose has this situation arisen? Why did the guiding Buddha emit light from the white hair between his eyebrows, illuminating all worlds? At that time, a rain of mandara flowers and manjushaka flowers fell, and these flowers combined with the fragrance of sandalwood carried by the wind, making all sentient beings feel truly, very extremely joyful, delighted, and happy in their hearts. Because of this auspicious circumstance, the entire land, the land we were in at that time, became pure and magnificent. Moreover, 6 kinds of tremors also appeared in this world. All of the fourfold assembly, the bhikshus, bhikshunis, and the rest of the fourfold assembly all felt great joy. Their bodies and minds felt completely at ease, as if a gentle wave of relaxation had washed over them, leaving them not only calm and peaceful, but also filled. It was an unprecedented joy. This is related to what are known as the 6 auspicious signs, which are special symbols that hold important meaning for our own land. These signs are valued because they are, after the white hair tuft glowed, it illuminated 18,000 lands to the east, turning them all into a golden color. And from the Avici hell up to the highest heaven, All beings of the six realms could be seen quite clearly, distinctly, and unmistakably. Among these various beings, some were, at that particular time, dying, and some were being born. Moreover, the causes and conditions of their good and evil deeds, as well as their good and bad retributions, could all be seen clearly. What is the reason for this, actually? That was one of the questions he asked. It was about the causes of those lands. And what else did he ask about? At that time, he also, in fact, saw those Buddhas, the lion-like ones, just like lions among wild beasts. The Buddha, the Blessed One, the truly great and compassionate lion among humans, was teaching them, imparting the most subtle and supreme Dharma teachings, and he used an especially pure and gentle voice, teaching countless, boundless, compassionate, and wise bodhisattvas, elaborating upon and expounding the profound teachings in a clear and compassionate manner. And using Brahma, profound and subtle in the Tibetan version is profound and vast. Using Brahma sounds, he expounded in a most profound and expansive manner. So that, upon hearing it, these sentient beings would experience joy. In all worlds and realms, the Buddha was imparting and teaching the Dharma, and the way he taught, with various causes and conditions indeed arising from different circumstances, countless metaphors, various causes and conditions in the Tibetan text, refers to various lines of reasoning. Perhaps when the Buddha was teaching the Dharma, he explained things with analogies, and at other times he would employ logic, philosophy, and reasoning. He used such causes and conditions to expound the Dharma to them, so that these sentient beings could ultimately, eventually attain spiritual enlightenment. So this is why, in fact, it should be noted that all of this is currently being specifically and directly asked of Manjushri Bodhisattva. Next, it is explained that in this world, first, how the Dharma is taught, and second, some indirect questions arise, discussing three vehicles, teachings. If people are suffering, weary of birth, aging, sickness, and death, the Buddha teaches them about nirvana so that in the end all their suffering ceases. This is called the Śrāvaka, or the vehicle of the hearers, as it is known in Buddhist tradition. Some people who accumulate merit and make offerings to various Buddhas seek Dharma and 12 links of dependent origination. Ultimately, the Buddha teaches them the Pratyekabuddha vehicle, and they attain the fruition of a Pratyekabuddha thesis, the Pratyekabuddha vehicle. Then, there are those who, through their sincere devotion and dedicated practice of the Buddha's teachings, become known as practicing various bodhisattva deeds to accumulate both wisdom and merit. They seek unsurpassed wisdom, and for them, the Buddha teaches the Mahayana Bodhisattva path. This is called the three vehicles, teaching of the three vehicles. Maitreya Bodhisattva, then, I live in this place, and I have both heard and seen this world, and there's still so many truly important things that matter deeply. Today, I can briefly discuss them. Here what follows is a short account. He said he saw countless bodhisattvas in this pure land, as many as the Ganges sands, who from causes seek the path. In short, this is in fact a very brief summary. What follows is actually an extensive explanation of the six paramita within the six perfections discourse. Today I will only finish discussing the paramita of generosity, and that will mark the completion of today's lesson for today. Thank you very much. First, let's briefly talk about the paramita of generosity. Some people practice generosity. What materials used for generosity? Gold, silver, coral, pearls, and many jewels. They are giant clams, agate, and all kinds of precious gems such as diamonds, as well as various types of servants and different kinds of carriages, and various types of decorated palanquins and carriages. A palanquin, by the way, is actually a type of vehicle or conveyance that is traditionally carried by several. These are all things that people commonly like to give as traditional offerings. A gentleman's word cannot be taken back, even by a team of 4 horses. A beautifully decorated carriage pulled by 4 strong horses is extremely fast and truly impressive. That's another way of saying it. Back in Confucius' time, during the spring and autumn and warring states periods, how was it said? This is how it was expressed in ancient times, right? Nowadays, in our daily lives, we might use other types of vehicles for transportation. This is about making offerings and giving freely with joy. The purpose of giving is to aspire to the Buddha's path and wish for the supreme vehicle for oneself. Among the three realms, the highest vehicle is the Mahayana. Mahayana, in fact, is what all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have praised. So, in the process of giving material offerings like this, in the Tibetan version, there are about 6 or 7 sentences on this, but here it's more concise. The Tibetan version is a bit easier to understand. The meaning is that the giver, through such acts of giving and dedication, let all sentient beings, indeed, obtain the highest and also the best vehicle among the three realms. The vehicle praised by all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is the Mahayana, the supreme vehicle. May all beings everywhere attain the truly wondrous fruition of this most supreme vehicle. That's the general idea. There are also some cases where some devoted bodhisattvas will graciously offer splendid 4-horse jewel carriages adorned with radiant jewels, as well as railings, balustrades, and ornate jeweled canopies, which were common features of ancient carriages. There are also decorative ornaments and embellishments, all of which are offered one by one. It is seen that some bodhisattvas offer their own bodies, flesh, hands and feet, their families and so on, also for the sake of attaining the unsurpassed wondrous path. There are also some bodhisattvas, his head, marrow and physical form. Each bodhisattva is different. The previous examples were also bodily offerings, and these are too. When we look at the biographies, the ways in which each bodhisattva makes offerings are not the same. There are also all sorts of other interesting possessions. And for what purpose are these offerings made? To attain the wisdom of the Buddha. As for the Lotus Sutra, if I just give a simple, literal explanation like this, it should also help open up your way of thinking. I hope that after this round of study, at the very least, you will know on a literal level what is being discussed in the Buddhist scriptures. At the same time, you will also understand what each scenario is really like and what the dialogues between the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas are like. This is something you will really need in the future when you are spreading the Dharma. So this time, everyone should also prepare well for propagating the Dharma in the future. At the same time, you should also sincerely and wholeheartedly accept this process from the Buddha with deep respect and a truly joyful, open heart, which is also very complete and perfect. All right. Well, I think we'll stop here for today, okay?
Sonandai tamse bhagaya tonani dhamma pasi tirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen droadra
Bandangara Badna Sadarda Bandangara Badna Sadarda Bandangara Badna Sadarda